Living without hookup is all about how you use the electrical power you've got in your battery. The convector bottom right, well, it's got a piezo start or a battery start, and after that they take no amps. So if you've got the space for it, the convector heater is the one to go for if you have a choice. I think we all know now that LEDs are getting better and better and better. They're lasting longer and longer and longer, and some of the results are quite staggering. You can even get little LED festoons for the lights over the door. Typical leisure battery, 100 ampere hour. It's only 100 ampere hours if you fully flatten it over 20 hours. In other words, you discharge it at 5 amps. 5 times 20 equals 100. If you discharge it at, say, I don't know, 70 or 80 amps, the amps time to time will not equal 100. The actual effective capacity falls the harder you use it. I was once asked, shall I keep one battery spare, then when the other one's flat change it? And I said, no, put them in parallel, then they both have an easier life. They both run at a lower discharge rate, and they will effectively give you more capacity than using one and then the other. They're all constructed vaguely the same. Lead plates, interspaced with some separators, set in a solution of sulfuric acid. Modern TVs will run directly off 12 volts, and that's more economical than using an inverter. Cordless drills, phones and things, you can actually get 12 volt adapters to charge them directly. Yes, you can run them through an inverter, but you will actually take a little bit less power if you use a dedicated 12 volt charging adapter for them. Will your piece of kit you want to use, will your laptop, for instance, work off a modified sine wave inverter? I've had one that does, I've had one that made the inverter turn into a puff of smoke. Different types of regulator. There are some that when the sun's very, very strong, they will actually put more amps into your battery than actually coming out the solar panel. They convert excessive volts to a few more amps, which is quite useful. You can use one of these battery to battery chargers to fast charge not only your starter battery but also your leisure battery. If you just go from one campsite with a hookup to another campsite with a hookup, buy a cheap battery. If you're going to go a lot of wild camping or even come to a cold Peterborough for 5 days with no hookup, then you do need a battery that's going to do the business and is suitable for deep cycling. If you go to 20% depth of discharge, very, very light use, you're up to nearly 3,000 cycles, so it makes a big difference how gently you treat your battery. Recombination caps. How often nowadays do you go and top up the distilled water in a battery? Pretty well you don't. The batteries are designed to not use a lot of water, and that evaporates or gets split up electrically into hydrogen and oxygen, is converted back into water by some catalyst inside each filler cap, recombination caps. If you need more energy, double the size of your leisure battery, fit the biggest solar panel you can afford and fit, and generator if you're parking in the field well away from me. It depends on what mains charger you have in your motorhome. Very much depends. They're relatively quiet, but not totally quiet. You can still hear them on a campsite several vans away if they're running, purring away underneath your van. If you want mains, you've still got to generate it somehow, maybe with an inverter. But if you go and get yourself a little Honda, it may not charge at 12 volts as much as the Gasparini, but it'll run your onboard charger, and that charger may well charge at 25 amps if you've got a reasonable sized charger in the van, and it will give you mains straight away. So if I was going to have a generator, I would always go for one that produces mains, because from that you can generate everything else you like.